Hey everybody, this is a continuation of our quadratic formula video lesson. You don't have to do this. This is sort of extra Algebra 1 gold membership stuff. In this video, I'm going to help you write this program that's on your screen right now. I want to just kind of run through some of the different parameters that I'm using in this programming. First, I'll clear the calculator's memory. We'll build this program from scratch, but the key features that we're going to use in our TI basic programming language today are prompt. Prompt is when you ask the program to prompt the user for some information. In this case, we want the user to be prompt for A, B, and C, which are the things we plug into our quadratic formula. We're also going to be using a feature on our calculator called, I guess it's called storing. We're storing this calculation to some temporary variable, which I called x. This little arrow key is that STO with the arrow next to the 1 on the calculator. It's storing this calculation to a temporary variable. We employ that a couple times. So I want to do that once for the positive formula of the quadratic formula and once for the minus the square root because it's plus or minus the square root, but there is no plus or minus the square root button, so we have to do it twice. So we're using prompt to have the user get prompted for the input information. We're using store to store this calculation to a temporary variable. We use that twice, once for the positive square root and once for the negative. And then at the end, we're using another little programming feature called display. We're having the calculator display this information. After it does the calculation and stores the x and does the calculation and stores it to y, we're having it to display those two answers, x and y. All right, so let's go ahead and build this program. The whole purpose of this is to get our quadratic formula, which was negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Now, the calculator's general software is actually more advanced than what you see inside programming. So we're actually going to have to type this formula in slightly differently. We're going to need some big parentheses to separate the numerator and the denominator. And we're going to have to type this part in separately. We're going to do once for plus and once for minus. Now, the way the calculator works is a little bit more, or the programming feature is a little bit more basic than what we're used to. So everything's an inline calculation. So this is actually going to get typed in there like this. Negative b plus the square root of b squared. And it uses this little notation. It doesn't have a big square root bar. It just has square root and then a parentheses, and that means everything following this will be having the square root taken until you close it off with another parentheses. So this is me closing off my square root, and now I'm closing off the numerator of this fraction. All right, and then I'm dividing it by 2a. So parentheses 2a, close parentheses. That's how we're going to type this into our calculator. So begin by hitting program, go over to new, hit enter, and I'm going to name this program quadratic or quad. So you're already on alpha lock. You can just start typing the letter keys that spell out quad. Q, where's my U, A, D. You can name the program whatever you want. Once you're done naming it, hit enter. Now this is when we tell the program to prompt the user for some information. So I'm going to hit program, go over to input output and select the second option, prompt. I want it to prompt the user for A, B, and C. So I'm doing alpha A, comma, alpha B, comma, alpha C, enter. Prompting the user for A, B, and C. Now what is it doing with A, B, and C? It's doing this, the formula. We have to type this formula and we have to store it to a variable called x. And then we'll store the other identical calculation that is basically the same exact formula, except now there's a minus here instead of a plus. We're going to store that to y. So we're doing parentheses, negative b, so alpha b, plus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. Close parentheses closes out that square root. Then close parentheses again to separate the numerator from the denominator. And then we're dividing that by 2a, but we want to put that in parentheses so it divides by that product, 2a. Now we want to store that calculation to some variable that we'll have it later recall and display. So I'm going to hit this button down here, the STO button near the 1. That STO arrow near the 1, that gives me that little arrow. I'm storing this to X. You could really store it to any letter that we haven't used already. All right, hit enter. I'm going to write another line of code, almost identical to that, except now instead of doing plus the square root, we're going to do minus the square root. So negative b minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, close parentheses, divided by parentheses 2a, close parentheses. We're going to store this. So again, it's the STO button down there. Store this to some other variable, call it y. And finally, we're going to have the program recall that information, x and y, and display it on the calculator screen. So hit program and go to input output, and we're going to choose the third option this time, display. We would like it to display the answers that it got for x and for y. So we're just going to do alpha x, comma, alpha y. And our program's actually done. You could hit enter to get down to a blank line of code or just quit out. That's the whole program. It saves it automatically. So I'm just going to quit. And to execute this program, you just go to program and hit enter. All right. I'm going to try it out on some of the problems we just did in our using the quadratic formula video. So the first problem, we got 2 and negative 5 as our answer. Let's see if we can get the same answer. Hit enter. What is A? A is 2. Hit enter. What is B? B is 6. Hit enter. C is negative 20. When I hit enter, it should give me the two answers, 2 and negative 5. Let's see. It does. So our quadratic formula program works. I'm going to try one more just to give this another go. This time I should get 7 and negative 2 as my answer. I'm going to get my program up there again. It's asking me for A, B, and C. As soon as I hit enter, it gives me the answers. Beautiful. So we just wrote our first program. I've had a couple other students write some really cool programs in class. I've seen people write programs that will change Fahrenheit into Celsius and Celsius into Fahrenheit. I've seen people write formulas that will give you the slope between 2 points. The most impressive formula, one of my students wrote last year. She wrote a formula that would solve systems of linear equations, and that one was really impressive. All right, thank you for watching this quick little intro to TI programming. The language that it uses is called TI Basic. People have written some pretty cool programs on this calculator. I've seen the video game Pong being programmed. There's a YouTube video on how to do that. Thank you for watching.